Alright, hello guys. This is my CX500 Rebuild series. Hopefully this turns into a series and it's not a standalone episode here. You'll notice right now in the video here, I'm just kind of showing off the bike in the driveway. And I don't know exactly what I'm trying to convey in these videos. I recorded a lot of this shit months ago. And I don't really remember what I was trying to show, so I'm just gonna kind of wing this and just talk off the top of my head here and just see what we get. So I'm just kind of showing off the bike in its state. I picked this bike up from this guy who left it in his driveway for maybe 30 years. So I think the last time it was registered was like 1994, maybe 96, around that time. And everything's included on the bike. It's very rusty. I have, registration title, but you can see here, the exhaust is absolutely fucked. And you see the engine, you see it's like white almost, and it should be a little shiny, it's aluminum. So that's all oxide layer. More carnage on the exhaust there, you can see. Has a crash bar on it, all rusted, suspension all rusted, tank rusted. Pretty much everything is rusted, all the chrome pieces are rusted, and that's just, I think, what happens when you leave a bike out for like 30 years uncovered outside. So here's just a little bit more detail on the bike. It has this massive windshield, and in this early stage of getting the bike and just having it at home, I started out just by looking over the bike, seeing what's missing or what needs attention, and just kind of planning, making a plan on what I want to do here. And off the bat, I do not like the crash bar, and I do not like the windshield. Right now you can see I'm kind of showing off that oxide layer, and that oxide layer is coming off, and that is something I'll be working on later. You'll see there's that sissy bar in the back, or not sissy bar, but the rear passenger backrest, which I'm not going to be saving. This seat, the top looks good, but the underneath of the seat is completely rusted. And you'll see later on, I won't spoil it, but the seat is going to get some attention. Possibly a replacement, but the seat definitely needs some work, just like the rest of the bike. Yeah, this massive windshield here, I do kind of like it. I think it is kind of cool, but also I kind of like a smaller, more discreet look, I'd say, on the bike. And that, yeah, crash bar, I definitely going to be removed just because, I don't ever plan to crash. And almost everything during this initial inspection on the bike, everything I've been looking over, it needs its attention. Everything needs work. Everything needs to be taken apart and cleaned or replaced. And that's kind of just what I was looking for in this early stage here. And now you're kind of seeing some more close-ups of the bike here. And just like the rest of the bike, obviously everything is pretty grody and just not in a good state here. You see those carbs. I'm kind of like looking at the carbs, and my initial thoughts are just, yeah, these are going to be pulled. Everything needs to be taken apart, especially these carbs. Alright, so you'll notice now that the bike looks a little bit different, and that's because I've removed the front windshield. I've removed the seats obviously already removed, and I removed that gas tank. And removing all that, we kind of get to start to see a little bit more of the bike. Once again, I'm kind of looking at that carb and seeing all that rough oxide layer built up. I'm kind of fingering the carburetor there. Yeah, see that frame? A little rusty there. This would look under the fuel tank, looks perfect. That's factory. And I'm kind of admiring that there. I'm like, wow, wish the whole frame looked like that, but sadly, that would be too easy. And there's this little rubber piece I'm pointing out here. That's all cracked. That's a air spoiler is what they call it, and it's apparently important, so I need to sort that out. Hopefully I figure out how to sort that out, but we'll see later. Okay, so we got those clips there, and there's the air box, and I'm gonna open it up maybe, no? Okay, there's a surprise in there for later. And we're looking at the odometer. This thing has 28,000 miles maybe. That's a decent amount, wow. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't have bought this, huh? Now you'll see here I have the carbs pulled off. This is the original carbs from the bike, and right now I have them, I had to pull them off the bike, which was a very big pain in the ass. I'm being completely honest. I also, at this point, I have the exhaust taken off, and you can see in there, this is the exhaust side. There's a lot of carbon buildup, and it looks kind of gross in there. This was a little scary of a moment because I thought it was completely fucked. I didn't know exactly what I should be looking for. And there's a spark plug. It looks not too bad in there. And you can see also there's a big pile of rust under the bike, and that's also just from removing the exhaust. Yeah, just kind of more just careful inspection on the bike. You know, carbs are off at this point, exhaust is partially off, and I'm just in the process of removing pretty much all of the stuff I never want to put back on the bike. So that's that crash bar and that windshield and the rear seat there. But you see this bolt here? This was a very big issue. This bolt here just was completely stuck. Put the Dremel to it, and I could not cut the bolt. I could not cut that nut off on the bottom. It was just like welded together. So that was a little bit of a tricky process to get that bolt off. But you know, eventually, well, maybe I do it. Who knows? I'm gonna keep looking at the bike here. Wow. I cleaned up at this point. I cleaned up a little bit of that oxide layer, and this was just kind of to see what it looks like underneath. But this was all just very early, just kind of playing around with the bike, seeing what the potential has. See that? Look at that shine there. Wow. Oh, almost mirror finish at that point there. Holy shit. Jesus. Okay. Okay. Now, this is just my first electrical test on the bike. I got that Pirate battery. I don't know if you saw that there. It's for, you know, sailing the high seas. So this battery connected, key in, and we're not getting headlights. And we have this, I believe it's an oil light on in the middle there. That's a little scary. So battery connected, yet high-low switch does nothing. And you know, we do have the turn signal. The turn signals do kind of work. They're not flashing. I don't know if they're supposed to at this point, but they're not flashing like other bikes have had. We have the running light on the back for the brake. And this was a very scary moment here, just because, you know, electrical stuff. You know, I'm a little smart of a guy. I'm kind of a smart guy, so I can figure some electrical stuff out. But motorcycles, I don't have a ton of experience with electrical work on them. But you can see this is not working properly. So there's something up, and the start button does nothing. The kill switch does nothing either. So there's definitely something going on with the electrical point, and I'm smart enough to tell that it's not working correctly. So here I am, just kind of looking at the bike again. We have the, you know, carbs off. We got that crash bar off at this point, and we got the rear passenger seat is still on, but that will be removed eventually. And the exhaust system is also removed. I will say that removing that exhaust was a pain in the ass, just because it was so rusted on. Now I think here, I'm just looking at this tank, and the tank is, you know, you can obviously see that rust. You know, kicking it around a bit, just abusing that tank. Yeah, look at that little pile of rust underneath the bike. That's all from removing all that rust underneath the bike is from removing that little middle section of the exhaust. So when the two headers, they connect, I think it's called like a power chamber is what Honda calls it in the service manual. And that power chamber was just completely stuck on the bike. Back to the electrical system though. Yep, turn signal, it's not working as I was expecting it to work. It does not flash on the sides. It just kind of, you know, it will turn on and then stop turning on. So there I am, kind of touching the electrical system, hoping that touching that would fix it. So back at the electrical system here, this is a little bit later on, and what I did to get this to work is I think I just cleaned out some of the contacts. So you see now we have that headlight, which, you know, that's like a 30-year-old headlight working, so thank God. So you see this starter button. The starter button still does not work. We're not getting anything with the starter motor and the solenoid, the starter solenoid. So I'm kind of looking at the starter solenoid. Here's the little bungee cord battery setup there, tied into the frame. A little scary, a little sketchy there. So I was just trying to figure out why we're not getting that starter motor to work. I wanted to spin the engine, and this was just the troubleshooting that issue. So this is just another status update. Right now, the bike here has, you know, everything's, all those useless things, like I said, the shield, the crash bar are removed. And I'm just looking at the engine again, just trying to see how hard is it going to be to clean this up. And so this is just, I'm showing off a little bit of the rust or a little bit of the oxide I removed with some wire brushes and the Dremel and some rotary tools. And it is cleaning up a little bit, but there is a lot of oxide to remove, and it is a slow process to remove it. Here is the exhaust replacement that I picked up on eBay. This is technically they advertise it as a performance exhaust for the CX500. And I kind of got scammed here because the photos looked awesome on eBay, and there's obviously rust on them. And I don't know if you see it, it's hard to tell, but there is like a lot of rust on the inside, corrosion, and it is not a good exhaust. The headers are good, and that power chamber that I said was completely rusted on the old one, that power chamber that I got with this new exhaust system is actually still is pretty good. And the headers I got with this eBay order are also, you know, they're rusted and shit, but they'll get the job done. And we're gonna skip forward a little bit more through this. I'm just inspecting the gas tank, and inside the gas tank it's rusted out. It will definitely have to be, you know, get that rust removed from the inside and then coat the inside of the tank with something. And you know, the next step is I want to, you know, obviously I want to take everything off the bike, so I'm just slowly stripping the frame, and in this section I'm trying to remove the airbox, and there's this little plate underneath that's giving me a little bit of trouble, but for every will there's a way. Wow, and just like magic, we have the airbox removed from the frame. Now at this point you can also see in the rear, I removed all of those plastic pieces on the rear, and that, you know, yeah, everything over here, the fenders and the little the license plate holder and turn signals. So I removed all that shit. We have, yeah, this is the wiring harness that goes back to the rear of the bike for the turn signals and brake lights and all that. And yeah, there's the airbox. That was not fun to remove. Turned out to be a little challenging with that plate here, but I was able to remove 2 of the 3 bolts and then kind of twist it out. That third bolt is like impossible to remove with the wheel still in. So I got to get a little creative. So this is the current state of the bike here. You can just see it. It's a lot emptier looking than before. And we're just going to keep stripping this bike down to its frame, and I plan to get this powder coated. Maybe I already have got the frame powder coated, who knows. But we're just going to keep stripping the bike down and, you know, inspecting things and taking things apart and cleaning them. So hopefully this video turned out pretty well, and if you enjoyed, just stay tuned for more updates, more videos. Thanks for watching.